Mexican Federal Army, repressor, genocidal, and unpunished massacre of El Charco, 1997. El Charco, Na Savi, Guerrero, June 9. Residents and activists commemorated the 27th anniversary of the Charco Massacre, perpetrated by the army in this town, Nusad and Mixteca, with the same demand for justice and reparation for the damage for the victims that they have been asking for year after year. And it has not yet arrived, reports journalist Lenin Ocampo Torres. At the rally, survivor Ericka Zamora claimed that 27 years later, the participation of the military who carried out this massacre is still denounced. Those who executed the wounded comrades who were gathered here to seek a better life, to organize, and have better conditions of a better life. He mentioned the names of Honorio Garcia Lorenzo, Moro Gonzalez Castro, Mario Chavez Garcia, Fidencio Morales Castro, Jose Rivera, Serafino Damian, Fernando Feliz Guadalupe, Daniel Jimenez, Manuel Francisco Prisciliano, Apolonio Jimenez Garcia, the compañeros massacred here, and our fellow ENAM student, Ricardo Zavala Tapia, which was seconded by the shout of the attendees present. "Dogs come out," was the defiant cry of General Alfredo Lopez Agarnica against the indigenous people who spent the night in the classrooms of the Queretino Maldonado Elementary School in the Na Savi community of El Charco. He had information that a guerrilla column had arrived to talk with the authorities and community leaders of Ayatla de los Libres. The army mobilized several special units and opened up around the community. In the early morning, they attacked the resting Indians. The roar of the bullets surprised him. There was no way to get to safety. Several were hit by bullets, and some chose to leave with their hands up. It was of no use to them, because they were easy targets when they were executed. The military unloaded more than 280 rounds of ammunition and at least 2 fragmentation grenades. Witnesses report that several indigenous people were held in the center of the field. Vidulfo Rosales narrates in the text Condemnations to Oblivion, recalling what happened on June 6, 1998. Journalist Luis Daniel Navar reported from Guerrero on June 9. Norma Messino, leader of the peasant organization of the Sierra del Sur, participated in the meeting. She said that massacres are crimes against humanity and that there is no statute of limitations, but that in Mexico the army is not touched even with the petal of a rose. No genocide in the country has been punished. When that happens, we will be talking about a transformation. What exists are pacts of impunity. 27 years after the Charco Massacre, and 30 years after the massacre of 17 peasants from Aguas Blancas in the municipality of Coyuca de Benitez, the murderers sent by former governors Ruben Figueroa Alcocer and Angel Aguirre Rivero have not been punished. He criticized that the ruling Morena party has integrated Angel Aguirre Rivero into its ranks, betraying the people. Let's not forget that the soldiers who murdered in El Charco were the same ones responsible for more than 600 disappearances in our state. The survivor of the Charco Massacre, Efrén Cortés Chavez, pointed out on his personal Facebook account that on June 6, 1998, the Insurgent Council convened a meeting to discuss the break with the IPR and autonomy in food production to confront the counterinsurgency strategy that the army was carrying out against the population. It consisted of the destruction of their food crops and situations of sexual violations in several communities. Only the break was dealt with on the 6th. The other issue was not discussed because in the early morning of June 7, the army approached the population, and that day the massacre took place, he said.
The Bishop Emeritus of Saltillo, Coahuila, Raúl Vera Lopez, was also present at the commemoration ceremony. They have no shame. First, the Mexican authorities had to be the ones to deliver justice in this case. I believe that the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights will provide a solution. I've seen what they've done. I am one of those who follow up. The scoundrel is in the Mexican government, which did not even pay attention to this case. Because that was a crime of the army, and that is a shame of us too. In his text, Vidulfo Rosales details, in those years, Eustolia was 18 years old. She was 4 months pregnant. She lived in La Palma. He had just joined Jose Rivera Morales, 22 years old, an indigenous leader who from a very young age went to work in the port of Acapulco. Eustolia and Jose, they formed a very active couple who went out to the communities to promote the organization and defense of their rights. Eustolia had the opportunity to train as a nursing assistant and to support people who required some medication. The spirit of solidarity grew in them, which implied a lot of sacrifice and many misfortunes due to the precarious situation of the communities. They learned to work in adversity and overcome countless obstacles. Above all, to beware of the army that guarded the people who had a presence in the communities. A few days before June 7, Jose visited several communities to ensure the attendance of the commissioners at the weekend meeting in the pond. Eustolia remembers Joseph's last words. "See you on Sunday morning. You go up on Sunday." She could not accompany him because her pregnancy was high risk. He prepared to go up that day. However, he noticed that there were many military personnel on the roads, and several helicopters flew low. He arrived in Ayatla to meet Don Chano, but first he sent him to say that he knew that some comrades had been massacred. All the more reason he risked going to the pond to find out what had happened to Jose. He could not advance because the military had crossed trucks, and all the people who approached were pointed at them. They did not give them any explanation as to why they were prevented from passing. Eustolia, desperate and tearful, told them that she wanted to go see her husband. "You can't get there. You can't get there." She felt very bad because her father had recently been killed, and now she feared the worst with her husband. She remembers that June 13th was Jose's birthday, and that distressed her more. That day, she decided to talk to the trustee to ask him to help her find her husband. The response was painful because she told her that she would have to go to Acapulco to identify her husband's body. He told him that many were unrecognizable and that he had not been able to identify them. Eustolia plucked up the courage and dared to go to the Manzanares funeral home, where the bodies were. The place was full of police and military. Some teachers told him not to speak. She waited for hours, and it was late at night when human rights personnel from Mexico arrived, and they were the ones who helped him to have Joseph's body delivered to him. The syndic made the arrangements to take him from Acapulco and bury her husband in the palm tree. Among the fallen was the commissioner of Agua Cachayu, Moro Feliciano Castro, and his companion Honorio Garcia Lorenzo. The two citizens were claimed by the entire community that came down to Ayatla to demand that the civil authorities intervene so that the army leaves their communities and that they investigate the murderers. A commission went to Acapulco for them, and as a community they recognized them for fighting in favor of their community. The widows of El Charco went to Chilpancingo to report a crime,